One of the things that I think has really become very apparent and obvious to me as I sort of reflect on my own experiences around agriculture and cooperative economics is how, in all my years, going back to the early 1990s, um, I've been involved in natural and organic retail as far as food sector, working in the food sector, and I've also had a lot of experience working in food co-ops. And one of the questions that I had continued to ask myself and others was why I didn't see more of these types of enterprises in the Black community. And so I was generally met with the response of just people not having been exposed to these things. Now I knew that wasn't the case with agriculture, of course. You know, we had a history in agriculture, deep agricultural history in the United States. But in terms of demonstrations of cooperative economics, especially as it relates to grocery stores and food co-ops and things like that, I was not seeing a lot of that happen. So for years, I kind of sat and tried to figure out how to deliver this idea, communicate these kinds of opportunities to people in the co-op sector as well as people in the Black community, proposing the ideas of food co-ops. And so it gives me a lot of hope in thinking that these can be ways that we can affect change in our community. But, one of the things that I've recently learned through some research is that we actually do have quite a rich history, especially around mutual associations and unions and cooperatives formed in the Black community. In fact, some of the greatest economic contributors to the civil rights movement were Black farmers and people who had formed agricultural co-ops and agricultural mutual associations. And so that was inspiring. And I also learned how many consumer cooperatives had been established in Black communities throughout the country and throughout the U.S. And often co-ops are they don't last forever. They're short-lived. In many cases, they are developed for a specific reason in response to specific conditions. And once they kind of serve their purpose, they generally sort of just naturally dissolve, or you might have other obstacles that cause them to not be able to continue. But I think it's important to ask the question, why isn't that also a part of the history that I was exposed to in all of my time and energy in these spaces? And it's largely, I think, because a lot of time had passed since those organizations or enterprises had existed, so people didn't have a recent history. But it also makes me wonder whether or not it was intentional, whether the deliberate erasure of history is something that is used to continue to perpetuate the idea that self-determination and cooperative economics are things that we as Black people in this country are just not prepared to explore. And so it's very liberating, to learn that we do actually have a history of that, and they have been successful demonstrations of that. And it really encourages me at this time in the work that I'm doing to reconnect with that legacy and to try to continue moving forward on that path. So I just want to just really just celebrate um, right now my own experience and share with everybody um, what I'm doing. I do regenerative agriculture. I operate a community-supported agriculture business called Taylorhood Farms. I am working on a couple different opportunities in reclaiming land, land for indigenous people, land for Black people, through the land trust um, entities. And I really am just trying to teach, teach, educate, and continue to build. And so I want to just point this effort out because I also want people to understand that this is not an anomaly. It's not something that, it's really that challenging. It's stuff that I do in large part on my own, but I have allies, I have people who help, and I really want to show appreciation for that. But I really just want to encourage people, when we start thinking about things like food deserts and the lack of economic development in our communities, want to encourage people to research and revisit some of the solutions that we were able to come up with in the past in order to address these issues. And hopefully we can start to reclaim that spirit, reclaim some of that energy, and redirect the trajectory of our communities to something that benefits us and supports us and has these principles attached to them that are reflective of concern for community. So that was what I wanted to put out for the day or for this time, and just say, I think we can do it. I think reclaiming our legacy and history with agriculture is critically important. I think exploring the ideas of cooperative economics have demonstrated efficacy, have shown to be effective. I think those are things that we can also do. And I also feel like on a personal level, what I've experienced is a very broad spiritual growth from reconnecting with these legacies and practices. So, I think we have that opportunity and we should take advantage of it. Peace.